So, picture this. Our boy is out on his ass. No crib, no cash, no hope. The people who were supposed to have his back basically threw him to the wolves, leaving him totally wrecked and alone. He's hitting nothing but dead ends, every door slamming shut, until she waltzes in. And let me tell you, Zhu Li is a whole masterpiece. A little older, drop-dead gorgeous, with this unnerving cool that just pulls you in. She takes him in with one quiet offer. A safe place to land. Her care starts to thaw his frozen-over world, and that's when the wiring starts to cross and things get tingly. Suddenly, thank you for your kindness turns into, I'm tempted to climb you like a tree. This whole rescue mission gets tangled up in some seriously forbidden, can't look away chemistry. Like a real-life romance manhwa plot. But is this love story going to patch him up? Or just drag them both down into the deep end? Stick around, 'cause it gets messy. Now, our boy used to think his life was a straight-up horror story he couldn't wake up from. He remembered a past where she had fought tooth and nail just to keep her head above water. But it felt like, the harder she thrashed, the faster she sank into that dark, empty place. And she'd get these flashes of being way too close to someone, like fingers tangled in her hair, and these bruising kisses that felt less like passion and more like she was being devoured whole. This guy had just cornered her, his mouth crashing down on hers in this desperate, suffocating way that stole all the air from her lungs. She was caught between that dizzying head rush and a whole lot of get the hell off me. And as he'd crush her against him, her entire body screamed escape, but she'd just freeze, maybe even whisper the name Fu, completely lost in a toxic cocktail of old feelings and new fears, a total mind warp. But then we snap back to the present, where Zhu Li is the one offering comfort. He's clutching her like a lifeline, his breath hot and ragged against her hair as he whispers, "You gonna shut me out too?" Her eyes fly open, totally shocked, and lock with his. It's her. That one thought just echoes in his head, and the name Xienne slips out. You could see 1,000 emotions flash across her face before she shut it all down. He pushes in closer, his voice getting tight with an edge of frustration. Stop looking at me like I'm just some kid. The space between them is practically crackling now, so thick with a heavy, unspoken need you. Oh, honey, I'm a lot more demanding than you can imagine, she purred, and my girl just stood there, lips parted, basically saying, bring it on. Then, slow as Sunday morning, her hand drifted up, hooked a finger under that flimsy little strap, and started the world's most deliberate slide south. The only sound in the room was the whisper of fabric hitting the floor as Zooey stepped out of the puddle of her clothes, while our little runaway just stared. His face was a cocktail of pure terror and holy crap is this real, blushing right up to his ears as she unveiled the full, glorious masterpiece. Her eyes were soft, but honey, they knew exactly what they were doing as she glided toward him, her hand landing on his neck like she owned the place, pulling him into her orbit. The kid was totally starstruck, just gaping like a fish. Cat got your tongue? Zooey's voice was a husky whisper, a wicked little smirk playing on her lips. She leaned in closer, her eyes sparkling with pure mischief. Getting cold feet? She teased. And yeah, he was caught hook, line, and sinker, completely drowning in her. In his head, she was some kind of angel shining a light in his dark, angsty world. Get this. He thought she was his time's salvation asterisk. Buddy, you've stumbled into a very adult romance manhwa, not a fairy tale. Totally overwhelmed, he lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her skin that was so damn sweet it almost hurt. It's all happening too fast, he whispered. I haven't even had a chance to properly fall for you. The sheer force of this crazy, intense feeling hit him like a freight train, and he had to look away, completely unable to handle the heat in her eyes anymore. So there's our leading man, standing on a bridge looking all broody with the city lights sparkling behind him like a sad movie poster. His fingers, of course, fidgeting. He was flicking a red lighter open and closed. Asterisk, click-clack times, you know. That thing guys do when they're trying not to totally freak out. He finally glanced at his phone. The screen glared back. 1:33 in the morning. Damn, it's late, he mumbled with a sigh, wondering for a split second if he could even catch a bus. But that thought just evaporated into a cloud of, I'm so screwed. Whatever. He breathed out, his gaze drifting back to the city, completely checked out. A fresh, angry bruise was already blooming on his lip, and his eyes had that deep, broody look that screamed, I have a tragic backstory. What's the point of even going home? He muttered, sounding like a ghost. Classic case of main character angst, you know? He was drowning in his own loneliness. Always had been. Felt like the world's saddest clown. Meanwhile, across town, our girl Julie was clutching her arm like she was trying to hold herself together, from flying apart. And then there was Jaehan, whose eyes were huge with that classic, oh crap mix of fear and total panic, as she tried to rip her arm away from this dude's grip, practically begging, let go of me. The words just ripped out of her. But the creep, Oh, he was loving it. His eyes had this gross, hungry glint as he just smirked. Okay. Yeah, right. His promise was as empty as his skull. He leaned in, his voice dropping to this low, suggestive purr. Then don't just blow me off like that, he cooed. It really hurts my feelings. He actually laughed, completely unfazed by the fact she looked like she wanted to crawl out of her own skin, and had the nerve to say she was only scared because he was being rough. Then he holds out a hand, promising to be gentle. Please. Jin flinched back so hard she almost fell, choking out a no. And right as his grimy fingers were about to touch her, bam! A hand shot out and clamped down on his wrist. And there he was, our sad clown, suddenly standing between them, looking anything but vulnerable. His gaze was like a laser beam. Don't touch her, he growled, his voice suddenly dropping a full octave with this new, raw power. The aggressor, of course, went full-on rage face, getting right up in our boy's grill, demanding to know who the hell he thought he was, screaming that it was none of his damn business. He basically told him to get lost, that he was crashing the party. Then he said something absolutely vile about what he was going to do with her. But before he could finish the thought, our boy's fist made a very personal introduction to the creep's jaw, sending him stumbling back. A perfect little splash of red blossomed on his lip as he just screamed, the nastiest word he could think of. Jaehan watched, hands slapped over her mouth in shock, as a wild kick meant for her just barely missed. And just like that, it was on. A total mess of a fight, and honestly, our boy was getting his ass kicked, pinned to the ground in seconds. Right when it started looking really bad, some other guy jumped in, yelling for them to knock it off, shouting that someone went to get a teacher. Our hero, still eating dirt, just spat out a curse. A blonde dude had to physically drag his buddy away, who was already looking a little worse for wear himself. I swear to God, don't. Let me catch you alone again, the creep seethed, his voice dripping with venom. I will make you regret this. His friend, who was so over this, was just like, dude, let's go. Don't be an idiot. You're gonna get another demerit. But the creep was still fighting him, whining. He hit me first. All right, stop yanking me. And there stood our boy. A total wreck, but not broken. He just stood there, his shirt, shouting that someone went to get a teacher. Our hero, still eating dirt, just spat out a curse, and across from him, Jahan was just staring, her hand slowly creeping up to her. But the creep was still fighting him, whining. He hit me first. All right. Her brow was all scrunched up with worry as she finally asked him if he was okay. But he couldn't even look at her. The busted lip, the scratches on his neck, it was all on display. He just let out this heavy, defeated sigh, a testament to the war raging inside his head. And then her hand, bless her heart, reached out, just hovering there. Her brow was all scrunched up with worry as she finally asked him if he was okay. Mouth. You could see her trembling a little, watching this whole raw, messy, and kinda hot scene play out. It was straight out of a romance manhwa, I swear. A little ripped, a new bruise already coloring his cheek. He swiped at his lip, the sting probably a sharp reminder of his little stunt. Don't touch me, he choked out, his voice all gravel and broken glass. Her hand just froze mid-air before pulling back, and you could literally watch the hurt flood her face, twisting her pretty features into something ugly and bitter. You're all the same, she snapped, clutching her chest like he'd physically stabbed her. The same old tired thought bouncing around his skull. Called it. All those toxic words from the past were having a party in the poor guy's head. She hasn't changed a bit, he figured, remembering every time someone told him to get lost. And You're All the Same was the hit single on that depressing playlist. She hates my guts, just like before. And then came the tidal wave of self-loathing. A guy like me is just gross, his brain supplied, helpfully. So, in a desperate bid for a new personality, he fumbled around for a lighter, right through the heart. He wouldn't even look at her, his voice going dead flat as he delivered the kill shot. You make me sick. And boom, you could see her just deflate. She turned on her heel and walked, leaving him there with his fists clenched, staring a hole into the pavement. Damn, that lit me up, he gasped, totally bewildered. His throat was on fire, and he was genuinely wondering if you were supposed to use your mouth for that part, the little flame sputtering to life. He stuck a cigarette between his lips, a brand new bruise coloring the corner of his mouth from their little. So there's my boy, trying to look cool against the railing, finally getting a decent puff from his cigarette, the smoke twisting into the evening air, got a nice little bruise blooming on his lip. A souvenir from the earlier drama, Disagreement. He takes this big, dramatic inhale, and the smoke just claws its way down his throat, triggering a series of wet, ugly coughs. Looking all mysterious and thoughtful under the brim of her cap, a tiny little sound, like ah, just slips past her lips. Yeah, his big escape into badassery was just another epic fail that somehow closed the 10-foot gap between them. She had this little smirk playing on her lips, hinting at the messy. It was a quiet little, I see you're a hot mess. Then she turns, her eyes snagging his. A soft, simple sorry, still stewing in the afterburn of their fight. He was so lost in his own head he didn't even notice Zuli's sneaky self sliding up next to him until he tried another puff and nearly coughed up a lung. Has she been there this whole time? He's thinking. He immediately assumes she's laughing at him, and his bruised eye gives a little twitch of pure, unadulterated embarrassment. Huh. Magnetic pull that just kept yanking these two together. My guy just thumbs the fresh bruise by his mouth, letting out this little huff of air as he's leaning there. Like, for real. Could she read his mind? As he's sinking into his pit of despair, she finally breaks the tension with a soft, bad mood. His head snapped up so fast I'm surprised he didn't get whiplash. A confused, huh? Left his lips, because their whole vibe was getting weirder and way more intense. His face, a lovely canvas of fresh battle wounds. He tries to shut her down with a short, clipped reply. No, he grunts, his voice thick with exhaustion. But Zuli? She just smiles, this slow, knowing curve of her lips. I wasn't laughing at you, Zuli cooed, before letting out the exact little laugh he'd imagined. The girl was a piece of work. He felt a jolt of total confusion, against the railing, looking like a total 10 out of 10 mystery novel cover. She leans in and purrs. You look like you've seen better days. You good? Need anything? My boy just stares, completely baffled, his fresh wounds probably screaming at him. His brain is just short-circuiting, like, what is this woman's deal? Why is she even talking to me? Is this some kind of scam? But damn, even he had to admit she was ridiculously beautiful, like she'd just walked off the pages of a steamy romance manhwa. But that gut feeling, that little alarm bell, was ringing loud and clear. What's her angle? He thought, before mumbling. Nah, I'm good, thanks, and giving her the cold shoulder. All he wanted was for this goddess to just poof, disappear, and let him stew in his own miserable juices. His hand, just chilling on the wooden railing. Really? She purred, her eyes practically caressing his bruised face. Doesn't look like it, though. She leaned in, her voice dropping low. And Julie. Oh. She's just watching him. Her eyes razor sharp but with this little smirk that says she knows something he doesn't. Her perfect hand floats out, hovering right over his, a silent little dare. There they are, standing at the edge of the water, with the twilight wrapping around them, and so much unsaid stuff hanging in the air you could practically taste it. You know, if you don't put that out, you're gonna burn your fingers. Julie says it so matter-of-factly. Not nagging, just observing. He barely even hears her, was still holding that cigarette, the glowing cherry getting way too friendly with his fingertips as he zoned out completely. His eyes drop, and you can see this nasty bruise coloring his cheek. Then, almost a whisper, thanks. He finally took the bait, even if he hated himself for it. Julie's smile got a little wider. How about this then, she murmured, before his reflexes kick in and he flicks the damn thing away. A little escapes his lips, a mix of pain and pure, unadulterated angst. So, under these moody streetlights by the water, Julie, still rocking her cap, turns to him with this gentle, almost knowing smile. She tells him to treat her like a secret keeper, a place to just dump all his drama with zero judgment. And honestly, he's thinking it might be way easier to unload on a complete stranger. No worrying if they think he's a loser, or if they'll go blabbing his business to the whole world. It's a clean slate. Julie's gaze practically melts. She insists that if the roles were reversed, she'd be desperate for someone to listen. So, what do you say? She coaxes, basically offering him a front-row ticket to Ventapalooza. Her mysterious smile practically throwing off sparks, but that alarm bell in his head starts ringing again, louder this time. Okay, she's definitely shady, he thinks. Who the hell is this nice to a random stranger? He just stays quiet, trapped in a whirlpool of what the hell and hell no. His voice, sounding as fragile as glass, cuts through the night air as he shuts her down one more time. I said, I don't need it. The dull ache from his busted lip was a nice little reminder of the battles he was losing. He turned his back on her completely. If that's all, I'm leaving. And he just walks off, leaving her standing there with the city lights shimmering on the lake. She just stood by the railing watching him go. But man, her presence was this heavy, magnetic thing you couldn't ignore. He walked with this determined stride, his backpack a familiar weight. He knew that even if she was an angel in disguise, telling this girl his problems wasn't going to change a single damn thing. It would just be a spotlight on how utterly pathetic he felt. Besides, he'd learned a long time ago that talking about that deep, dark crap never really fixed anything. And right behind him, Julie calmly lifts a cigarette to her own lips, the tiny orange ember, a silent, smoky punctuation mark on the end of their conversation. So she just watches him scramble off. And there's Zula, looking like the final boss in some scandalous romance manhwa. her long, elegant fingers caressing a pack of cigarettes. Backlit by the city glow, she blows out a perfect plume of smoke and just snaps at the poor runaway. What the hell are you even doing here? And my boy, his face a total mess from fights he's not talking about, just turns away and mutters, "I want to drop out." Her voice instantly drops 10 degrees. What kind of crap are you pulling now? Jang Fu, what happened at school? Can't you just try hitting the books for once, instead of being a giant pain in my ass? He finally meets her eyes, his own pleading. If you just let me drop out, I swear, I won't bother you again. I'll get out of this city. Julie just scoffs, a little spark of a challenge in her eyes. Huh? Leave and go where? Like you've got some paradise waiting for you? Don't come here spouting nonsense. Then she takes this long, deliberate drag. The cherry on that cigarette glows like a hot little secret. Her final words are a cold steel command, "You better not." And just like that, the unspoken leash, that suffocating, complicated hold she has on him, gets a whole lot tighter. Now, picture this. Another woman, this one in a killer purple dress, pops open her own pack. Her hand is pure elegance, even doing something so basic. But before she can get a light, our boy's hand shoots out like a lightning strike. He snatches the lighter right from her grasp. "Don't smoke," he begs, his voice all shaky with this wild urgency. Her head snaps up, pure irritation flooding her face as he chokes out, "Mom!" And there it is. Her whole Ice Queen composure shatters under a wave of fury. "Don't you dare call me that in public. How many times do I have to tell you?" She bites out, completely done with him. "Ugh, just go home, right now. I don't have time for this melodrama." She turns her back, dismissing him with a little wave like he's a pesky fly. You could practically feel his heart twisting as he watched her walk away. "You came all the way out here just to talk about times this asterisk? You think I've got nothing better to do?" His jaw is clenched tight, his eyes burning with this raw, agonizing pain as one single, devastating question escapes. "Have you ever even given a damn about me?" His face was a perfect storm of anger and hurt, a total close-up shot straight out of a romance manhwa. His voice was trembling as he said it. See, he knew she always understood he hated school, but she never, ever actually listened. Coming all this way was the only shot I had at talking to her, he thought, just staring at the back of her head. But even then, what's the freaking point? His mind screamed, his eyes getting all glassy. No matter what I say, you don't care anyway. Her only reply? A cold, flat, "What?" A last, desperate plea tears out of him. "Am I not your son?" But she was already over it. "Enough. Do whatever the hell you want. I don't care. Just don't bother me." And then he was alone. A perfect picture of dejection, with all those ugly words from when he was a kid, echoing in his head. He was just the problem child with the hostess mom. He could still hear the cruel whispers from the playground. "My mommy said playing with you will make me bad," they'd taunt, just pushing him deeper and deeper into this hole. This belief that he was just built to be hated, that he didn't deserve a single connection. He had this burning need to just run away from it all. His voice was trembling as he said it. See, he knew she always understood he hated school, but she never, ever actually listened. A guy who was just born unlikable, every place on earth would feel exactly the same. Then, right on cue for maximum drama, the rain started. Just a few taps at first, but then it just opened up, hammering down on his shoulders. His eyes, already clouded over with sadness, finally registered the downpour. A last, desperate plea tears out of him. "Am I not your son?" But she was already over it. "Enough. Do whatever the hell you want." He just kept walking, shoulders slumped under the pounding rain, his busted lip stinging every time a cold drop landed on it as the storm got worse. The sheer weight of it was suffocating, a silent scream for an escape route. And yet, this deep, dark part of him whispered that for someone like him, he's touching his ear, pretending to be listening to the storm. But let's be real, her wild command was on a non-stop, "What the fuck is happening?" loop in his head. The downpour wasn't just rain, it was a whole mood, amplifying his broody silence and all the unresolved angsty tension Zule had left hanging in the air. She'd totally want a knight in shining armor. Meanwhile, her little runaway project is standing there looking like a drowned cat, the rain hammering down as he whispers a name, Jang Fu, like some tragic hero in a historical romance manhwa. "Buddy, you should worry about getting pneumonia first." A little voice in Julie's head was probably screaming at her to just walk away. A full-on war between her brain and her bleeding heart. She paused, then turned. She stared into the distance for a hot second, then time swoosh times an umbrella pops open. Just like that, she's gliding over to shield her little lost lamb. And then you have Julie, under her cap, looking all deep and philosophical, probably thinking that if she times were the one in a bind. You know the one, "Did you ever actually give a damn about me?" God, the drama. Rain dripping from his messy hair. This scene was ripped right from the pages of a top-tier romance manhwa. So now he's standing at Julie's front door, and you can practically see the gears grinding to a halt in his brain as a horrifying new thought hits him. He'd gotten it all wrong. Her apartment, he realized, was literally a stone's throw away. Suddenly, her being so unbelievably chill during the apocalypse-level downpour made a whole lot of embarrassing sense. He flashed back to his big, heroic moment trying to shield her with his dinky backpack while she just watched him, probably trying not to laugh. All she'd said was, "You should get out of the rain." He looks up, suddenly safe in her little dry bubble, his eyes practically screaming at her, demanding an answer to the question that was eating him alive. Then comes the soft times, click times of the door unlocking, and there's Julie, a tiny, mysterious little smirk playing on her lips. "Come on in," she purred, her voice way too calm, inviting him into what was either a safe haven or the lion's den. He just hovered on the threshold, hesitating. So Julie, smooth as silk, drops the ultimate line. "Don't worry, I live alone." "Oh yeah, asterisk. That's times super comforting." She then sauntered deeper into her warm, cozy-looking place. "Just leave your shoes anywhere," she tossed over her shoulder. He took one timid step inside, his soggy sneakers immediately christening her pristine floor. He just stood there, frozen, creating his own personal puddle. Sensing she'd lost her shadow, she turned back, her gaze a weird mix of clinical and kind. "What's wrong?" she asked. A blush just crept up his neck as he mumbled something about being a walking water hazard who was about to ruin her floors. Then comes the soft times, click times of the door unlocking, and there's Julie, a tiny, mysterious little smirk playing on her lips. And like a lost puppy, he'd just followed her. I mean, it was still coming down in sheets, and it's not like he had a 5-star hotel waiting for him. "Just leave your shoes anywhere," she tossed over her shoulder. He took one timid step inside, his soggy sneakers immediately christening her pristine floor. He started nervously tugging at his t-shirt, which was plastered to him like a second skin, basically putting his vulnerability and everything else on full display. Julie's eyes locked onto the whole wet shirt situation, and without a single word, she reached out and hooked her fingers under the damp hem. Then her gaze drifted up, catching the scrape near his mouth. Her eyes widened. "Whoa," she breathed. "That's a hell of a bruise." Her fingers started a gentle exploration of his side, and yup, there it was. A fresh, angry-looking bruise was already blooming right under her fingertips. Her face was pure, unadulterated concern. He flinched back like he'd been zapped, his face somehow finding a new, even deeper shade of red. "What are you trying to do?" He choked out the question, his voice cracking. The blush was raging, his eyes were darting everywhere but her face, and the stammer was just the pathetic cherry on top. The poor kid's face went from 0 to 100 on the blush-o-meter, his eyes wide with a cocktail of pure confusion, and I am so out of my depth right now. Realizing her hands-on approach might have been a tad forward, she just tilted her head, her face a perfect, unreadable mask. "What, exactly?" she asked. "Do you mean by asterisk that asterisk?" "Oh." She was having fun now. She just kept pushing, her voice all smooth and level. "And my guy?" His brain just blue-screened. He was totally tongue-tied, drowning in a sea of what the hell is happening emotions. "It goes all the way up here too," she murmured, her eyes still scanning his torso. Then, getting down to business, she grabbed his wrist. "Hey you!" And before his scrambled brain could even process her logic-defying comment, she just spins around. "I'll go grab a towel, so you can dry off. Don't move." And as he watched that silhouette disappear, his hand just shot up to his cheek, which was basically on fire. Man, this was getting so damn weird. His thoughts were racing. Wait, is she not gonna jump my bones? Should I make a run for it? His brain was a total battleground, a total civil war of impulses. So, there he is, our little runaway. All scrubbed clean but looking super out of place. "Jay, just so we're clear," he sputtered. "I came to your place, but I don't mean it like times that asterisk." And you could practically see the light bulb flicker on over Julie's head, which was basically a shrine to her. All these signed photos of Julie looking like a total smoke show, making him wonder if this woman was some kind of A-lister. A closer look revealed the family photos, even one with some dude who looked like a husband. Then she hits him with this tiny, wicked little smile and goes, "You said you were all wet, right? Just doing a quality check." The contrast was brutal. But then, as his eyes kept scanning, one specific photo snagged his attention. The whole picture-perfect setup. "Wow," he thought, "she's got it all. A real gut punch for a kid who has, nothing." Standing awkwardly in Julie's ridiculously fancy living room, half-heartedly drying his hair with a small towel. Naturally, his eyes start wandering over to the wall, yanking him out of his head and right back to her. Julie, holding a glass of water, just calmly gestured for him to take a seat on the couch. In this one, Julie's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. There was this deep, aching loneliness there, even behind the glass. But he just shook it off. He was practically vibrating with the need to escape, quickly saying the rain looked like it was letting up and he should probably bounce. But Zuli just got this little smirk on her face, her eyes locked on him. Her voice was like velvet-covered steel when she asked if he was really in times much of a hurry to get home. And bam, direct hit. His eyes fell to the floor, his whole body deflating as he admitted he had no way to get back. Zuli's eyes narrowed just a fraction. "I thought you lived in Taipei? Where did you come from?" She pushed. He got all fidgety, the towel still around his neck, and mumbled something about not wanting to get her pristine sofa dirty, telling himself he was just reading too much into it, like some dramatic romance manhwa. And just like that, "Aren't you going to sit down?" Zui's voice cut right through his thoughts. Honestly, he didn't even know. All he could hear were those words ringing in his ears. "You're all the same. I'm so done with this life." Her words slicing away at his already shaky cool. He barely whispered it. Tai Chong. The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife, until she finally asked. The memory faded, leaving him looking all broken and still. Zuli just met his gaze, totally unfazed. "Fine, whatever," she said, holding out the water. "It doesn't matter. Here." He took the glass like it might bite him, letting out a little, as his face got all red, suddenly aware of his bruises. "It's late," Zuli went on, her voice surprisingly soft. "You should just crash here tonight. You can call your family if you're worried." He swallowed hard, that word family landing like a lead weight. "Don't you dare touch me." He had to get out. He would have run to the ends of the earth to get away from that hellhole. A quiet little, "Oh," slipped out of Zuli's lips, her eyes widening just a bit as she took in his completely shut-down expression. And then Zuli's mysterious smile got wider, a dangerous spark lighting up her eyes as she told him, "You know, saying things like that is a very dangerous game. Like anyone would even notice," he thought. That old, familiar ache squeezing his chest. "No one gives a damn where I am. That far. What brought you all the way to Taipei?" And just like that, his eyes went dark with a sadness that told the whole story. His internal monologue was screaming, "Okay, she's being super weird again." He was totally baffled, thinking, "I just don't get why this woman is being so ridiculously nice to me." But a darker thought kept creeping in, matching the gloomy, rain-slicked city outside the window. This whole thing felt like a beautifully set, and very tempting, trap. Fast forward to morning. There he is, all curled up on Zui's sofa under a comfy blanket, dead to the world as the sun starts peeking through the blinds. He just stared, a telltale blush crawling up his neck as he gripped his glass. "Aren't you scared I times could be a bad person?" she challenged him. She gently brushed her fingers through his hair, and the poor kid started to stir in his sleep, letting out a soft little groan. But then her touch traveled, tracing the line of his neck, then his cheek, and bam, his eyes flew open. A jolt of pure, undiluted panic shot through him. He gasped and scrambled backward, his voice cracking as he blurted out, and then a hand reaches out, stroking his hair in what looks like a super tender moment. It's Zui, of course, her fingers gently playing with his locks. "Oh, you're awake?" she asked, all calm and casual, as he clutched the blanket to his chest like a security blanket. The blush was back, painting his neck bright red. His mind was going a mile a minute. Then she dropped her excuse. "I was just making sure you were comfortable. That sofa can't be great for your back, can it? I told you to take the guest room, but you had to be all noble and take the couch." She was still so close he could barely think straight. He stammered, I, hey, what are you doing?" But Zui just leaned back, totally unfazed, with that little smirk of hers making a comeback. "Like nothing happened," Zui announced. "Well, I've got to get to work." He just watched her, a weird knot tightening in his gut as she got ready to leave. "It's still early. Feel free to sleep in," she offered casually, but he was already scrambling. "Oh, no, I should probably get going too," he mumbled, desperate to escape. His hand flew to his neck in a classic, "What the hell did I do" move. My phone. His eyes found it on the table, and a tidal wave of pure, uncut guilt came crashing down. "Oh God, I laid into my mom yesterday and then just didn't come home. She's got to be absolutely nuclear by now." He grabbed it, his thumb hovering over the screen like it was the big red button. "How am I supposed to spin this?" The display read 8:16 a.m. Julie, with those laser beam eyes of hers zeroed in on his wrecked expression, purred. "Something wrong?" He snapped his gaze away, mumbling, "It's nothing." A defense about as strong as a wet paper towel against the hurricane in his head. Julie just gave him this wicked little smirk, something dangerous glinting in her eyes. She slid closer, her presence suddenly sucking all the air out of the room as she whispered, "Or maybe, you just don't want to leave?" He felt a jolt go right through him, his breath catching as her hand began a slow, deliberate crawl toward him, a gesture that was half caress, half ownership. Her stare was a velvet trap, her voice laced with a hypnotic little hum as she went on. How about this? Why don't you stay? The atmosphere was crackling with things he was too scared to name. Then, here's the real offer, she said. Her voice so damn calm it made the massive proposition feel even heavier. I can take care of you. The poor guy just stood there, frozen solid, his eyes wide with a cocktail of pure terror and a stupid, shimmering hope, the weight of her promise echoing in the space between them. I can take care of you, Julie murmured again, her eyes holding galaxies of knowing as she leaned right into his personal space. The kid, completely short-circuiting, could only choke out a, ha. A low, throaty laugh escaped her. Ha ha, you hesitated. That means your heart did a little flip, didn't it? His face instantly went supernova red, a fiery shade of crimson, his eyes flitting away like startled birds. No, it didn't. Ugh, I can't talk anymore, he sputtered, grabbing at his chest like he was trying to physically hold his jackhammering heart in place. Julie, on the other hand, rose like a queen, all smooth lines and grace. I'm heading out. We'll pick this up when I get back. Make yourself comfortable, she purred, her voice a cool balm as she glided toward the door. The kid just watched her, his gut a swirling mess of dread and some weird, electric longing. The lock clicked, sealing him alone in the massive, silent apartment, and suddenly the sheer size of the place made his chaotic thoughts echo even louder. He just sat there, drowning in the quiet, a total shipwreck on her sofa. The whole place seemed to vibrate with the ghost of her presence. A shock of pure disbelief shot through him. Asterisk, did she just leave me here? A complete stranger? Alone in her house? Asterisk, she really just walked out. What in the actual hell? He raked a hand through his already wrecked hair, his face a perfect picture of I'm so lost. But even with her Houdini act, a tiny, fragile little thought started to bloom. She's a weirdo, for sure, but not a bad one, he mumbled to himself. Probably the only person who's ever been this decent to me. His mind replayed the highlight reel of his crappy life. At this exact time, his own mother would be home, a ghost he'd have to tiptoe around before bolting for school. He could practically feel the phantom motion of tying his sneakers, a familiar ache blooming in his chest. She's gotta know I'm not home, right? So why hasn't she even asked where I am? His thumb was on autopilot, scrolling through his phone as a new wave of sick anxiety crashed over him. Or, is she still pissed about yesterday? He curled into himself on the couch, phone gripped tight, a dull pounding starting behind his eyes. Is this it? Is she just done with me for good? His head shot up, his eyes going wide at the TV screen. Fragile little thought started to bloom. She's a weirdo, for sure, but not a bad one, he mumbled to himself. Fragile little thought started to bloom. She's a weirdo, for sure, but not a bad one, he mumbled to himself. Was in the middle of the on-screen chaos, her voice like a whip. How is it this hard to find one person, right? So why hasn't she even asked where I am? His thumb was on autopilot, scrolling through his phone as a new wave of sick anxiety crashed over him. A woman's voice shrieked, yanking him out of his own drama. A drop-dead, gorgeous woman, Jang Yashi, all sharp angles and lethal elegance, her expression a mask of cold fury, promising hellfire for whoever she was hunting. Okay. And cut. The director's voice finally boomed, snapping the tension. The crew started moving, but Julie stayed perfectly in character, even as her assistant crept up to her in the waiting area. Jen? Need some water? The girl asked, all timid. Julie just waved a hand for her to put it down. The director's message came through the assistant. He wants to do a few more takes later. We're not wrapping yet. All of you! Her command was an iron fist in the tense air. And then the camera zoomed in on Julie's face, her face a mask of fake sympathy. I know it's not my place, but I can't believe a second female lead like you got so few scenes. You could practically see Julie's jaw clench, the only crack in her cool facade. The assistant kept going, practically quoting a scene from some other tragic romance manhwa. That girl Xienne worked her butt off for her role, she reported, a little bit of sass in her voice. Julie just gave a calm nod, a total pro. Then the assistant leaned in. Let's be real, I only snagged this gig because my dad pulled some strings. Meanwhile, Zhu Li, looking like a damn queen, was just taking it all in. The director, what a charmer, sneered. Look, your acting is trash, but that face is a goldmine. Still, with this little screen time, how are you ever gonna blow up? You could practically see Zhu Li flinch on the inside. Then the guy's tone gets all chummy. Anyway, your dad. Did he mention that situation again? You know, your fiancé? And bam. At the sound of that word, Zhu Li's perfectly composed mask cracked just a tiny bit. He's flying back next month. Has he hit you up? Your dad was just saying how you used to be all over him, she reported, a little bit of sass in her voice. Julie just gave a calm nod, A total pro. Then the assistant leaned in. Doesn't it just make you so frustrated? Xienne, meanwhile, just shrugged it off with a weak smile. Nah, nothing to be frustrated about. Before Dora could even get the juicy question out, Zuli's hand shot out and clamped right over her mouth, her whole vibe turning from chilly to lethal. Dora, Zuli's voice was a low-key threat. Can you do me a favor and shut that pretty mouth of yours for like 5 minutes? Dora, muffled, shot back. Fine. 30 seconds. Tops. Seriously. You're gonna talk me into an early grave. Startled into silence, Dora just gave in. Zuli then turned, looking regal as ever, even as this exhausted sigh slipped past her lips. You could see a whole complicated history flash behind her eyes. Dora, her friend, practically vibrating with gossip, leaned in. So, wait, does that mean you two are actually, completely baffled, was like, what? Zuli paused, throwing a look over her shoulder that could freeze hell over. I got basically 0 sleep last night. I honestly don't have the bandwidth to listen to you ramble the entire way home. And that, my friends, is when Dora snapped. She called her a total jerk and told her to stop using that fake name. You're acting like the evil second lead in some angsty romance manhwa. Just be yourself for once. But Zuli, with a little flick of her wrist, might as well have put on noise-canceling headphones, completely ignoring the meltdown. The car glided through the city, a quiet purr in the background. Inside, Zuli just melted into the seat. A deep, also, she announced, don't even think about driving me home later. I'll call my own car. Dora. But then an image of that vulnerable runaway boy flickered through her brain. All right, that guy, she thought, a little something unreadable crossing her features. Then, the mortifying realization hit her like a truck. She didn't even ask for his name. Or his number. Smooth move, genius. Her gaze went all soft as the memory came rushing back the way he looked last night, profound exhaustion carved into her gorgeous face. Her mind was just craving a mountain of food and sweet, sweet oblivion. Almost delicate face and the dark, angry bruises blooming across it. And damn, she found herself completely captivated, a shocking thought bubbling up. He was 100% her type. A slow, secret smile started to play on her lips. His shocked reaction when she got close was so pure, the quiet electric charge of that moment was still buzzing under her skin. She could just see him, her eyes tracing the insane contrast between his fair. Her fingers had gently hooked the hem of his ragged shirt, pulling it up just enough to get a little peek at the deep, angry-looking bruises scattered across his skin. What the hell happened to him? His body, though slim, felt surprisingly solid under her fingertips, all coiled muscle and tension. A powerful craving to know more, to peel back all his layers, just surged through her, a tidal wave of pure, unadulterated curiosity. Zuli's mind was spinning, a sudden hot flash rushing straight to her face. Ugh, I'm such a freak, she mentally screamed at herself. What in the actual hell am I even thinking, doing? Girl was having a full-blown fantasy in the middle of traffic. Her hands flew to her face, totally busted by her own brain. The driver, catching her little squirm fest in the rearview mirror, was probably dialing the number for the nearest psych ward. She was replaying this ridiculously bold scene with her runaway boy toy, leaning in all slow and sultry, whispering, how about this? Why don't you stay? I can take care of you. Just thinking, it made her whole body tingle. Seriously? What kind of corny romance manhwa line was that? She groaned to herself, a hot flush creeping up her neck. I was just trying to break the ice. God, I hope he doesn't think I'm some kind of predator. Girl was having a full-blown fantasy in the middle of traffic. Her hands flew to her face, totally busted by her own brain. The driver, way too late to get shy now. She pulled her Ice Queen persona back together, straightening her spine as she got out of the car. But a little worm of worry started squirming in Julie's gut, the thought that he'd already bounced and she'd totally missed her shot. A tiny, frustrated puff of air escaped her lips. Damn. She really didn't expect to feel a sting like that. As her fingers danced over the keypad on her door, way too late to get shy now. She pulled her Ice Queen persona back together, straightening her spine as she got out of the car. A tiny, frustrated puff of air escaped her lips. Damn. She really didn't expect to feel a sting like that. As her fingers danced over the keypad on her door, bam, there he was. A jolt, like a full-body static shock, shot through her as his guarded, intense eyes locked onto hers. The air crackled with a question he didn't have to ask. A direct challenge to the cool facade she'd just rebuilt. The teenage runaway just kind of stammered, a soft, escaping as he blocked the doorway. He'd heard a noise and, bless his heart, a little flutter of hope went off in his chest. He thought it might be her coming back. I heard you at the door, and figured it was you, he mumbled. his voice a little rough. His eyes were still a little suspicious. And Julie, looking like a damn supermodel even in her work clothes, finished his sentence with a look that said, obviously. So, I came to open it. The sound of her heels was sharp as she swept past him into her own apartment. Thank you, she said, almost an afterthought. Then, she pivoted, that cool mask sliding back into place. I thought you would have left by now. He nervously rubbed the back of his neck, a cute blush coloring his cheeks. Oh, I crashed out again. And by the time I woke up, it was already this late. He looked right at Julie, a dare in his eyes as he remembered what she'd said. Besides, didn't you say you wanted me to stay? And boom, there it was. His cheeks were pink, but his question was a direct hit. Julie's eyes went wide for a split second, a little gasp getting caught in her throat before she slammed her composure back in place. He had to wonder if she was just saying stuff, you know? Just being nice without meaning a damn thing. She turned to him, her smile a perfect, pretty lie plastered over her shock. Of course not. You just surprised me, that's all. Her gaze sharpened, getting a dangerous little sparkle. So, are you telling me you times want times to stay? He dropped his gaze, suddenly fascinated by his own hands. Yeah. If it's cool with you? Can I crash here for a bit? He finally looked up, and his eyes were so damn sincere it was almost painful. I know how insane this sounds. The raw, desperate plea just hung there between them. A fragile bridge he was hoping she wouldn't burn. A wild hope was sparking inside him. What if this was it? A real-life plot twist, a chance to get away from everything. But then the fear kicked in. What if, to this impossibly chic woman, he was just some mess she'd have to clean up? A temporary glitch in her perfect life. Then he should just disappear. He could just see her, cool and unbothered, a cigarette dangling from her fingers as the smoke curled around her like a shield. A picture of quiet control, like vanishing, was the exact vibe she was going for. Okay. But there's something I don't get, he started, locking eyes with Julie, whose gaze had gone weirdly soft. Why are you being so cool to me? We literally don't even know each other. He was replaying the whole thing in his head, his voice dripping with confusion. Last night, he started, locking eyes with Julie, whose gaze had gone weirdly soft. Why are you being so cool to me? We literally don't even know each other. His eyes were practically begging hers for an answer. That unspoken, is this what I think it is? Hanging in the air like a fragile thread between his desperate fantasy and his crippling self-doubt. But Julie just drilled him with this intense look. Are times you times the one with some kind of motive? The question landed like a ton of bricks, even though her own intentions were the real mystery here. He glanced away. A silent motive, huh? The words were echoing in his eyes were practically begging hers for an answer. That unspoken, is this what I think it is? Hanging in the air like a fragile thread between his desperate fantasy and his crippling self-doubt, a wicked little glint sparking in her eyes. I gotta say, I didn't see this coming, but it's actually kind of fun. Then she leaned right back in, her voice dropping to this dangerous, silky whisper. You really have no idea what I'm after? Her fingers did this little electric slide up his arm as she crowded his space, her breath hot against his ear. I thought you knew. That's why you decided to stick around. His heart immediately started a drum solo against his ribs as a blush crept up his neck. Obviously, it's because I'm into this whole pathetic, stray puppy thing you've got going on. Her words, just a whispered confession, completely knocked the wind out of him, leaving him feeling totally exposed as his world spun from her insane boldness. Yeah, Julie's audacious honesty had already short-circuited his brain. Her voice now a velvety murmur. She reeled him in closer, her promise sounding a whole lot like an intoxicating command. As long as you keep me satisfied, I'll give you whatever you want. He just sputtered out a pathetic "I" as his face went supernova red and she gently tugged him into an embrace. He was completely overwhelmed, his hands just hanging there like useless appendages. I might not be very good at that, he whispered, a whole new wave of panic flooding his system. Someone send help. What is even coming out of my mouth? Zhu Li just hummed, her eyes sparkling with pure mischief. Heh, don't tell me you've never punched your V-card. His blush went from red to crimson as he became fascinated with the floor. A low, knowing little laugh escaped her as she yanked his waist flush against hers. Huh? Seriously? Well, that's going to be a tiny bit of a problem. Her playful but potent words left him breathless and feeling completely see-through. Our boy's heart was hammering out a frantic beat as Zhu Li's gaze just devoured him, a silent declaration hanging in the air like a scene from the steamiest romance manhwa. He felt this insane pull, a desperate ache that mirrored her own unspoken craving. A hunger she finally, playfully confessed. I could just eat you up right now. The tension was so thick you could barely breathe. And then poof. The scene just flipped. Now they're sitting at a table, plates in front of them, a total whiplash from the near-devouring moment. Julie savored a bite, sighing contentedly about finally getting some meat. Seeing his plate was untouched, she nudged him. You haven't eaten all day either, right? Eat up. He could only gawk at her, a blush crawling back up his neck. Was she doing this on purpose? Now they're sitting at a table, plates in front of them, a total whiplash from the near-devouring moment. Julie savored a bite, caught between her expert-level mind games and his own budding, terrifying feelings. Jang Fan's eyes squeezed shut, a fresh wave of heat flooding his neck. He was mentally kicking himself. It was his own damn fault for always falling for her tricks, for letting her play him like this. But then, a sharp, clarifying thought cut through the self-pity. Oh, right. Julie's smooth voice sliced through the cafe's quiet hum. We haven't properly introduced ourselves, have we? Jang Fu? Still totally flustered, he mumbled. Jang Fu. Julie just smiled, her eyes sharp but somehow warm. Fu, huh? Well, that's what I'm calling you from now on. She nodded toward the plate in front of him. Go on, eat. It's gonna suck if it gets cold. Her voice went all soft, weaving this cozy little net of concern around him. We'll go grab you some daily stuff and clothes later, too. You didn't bring a thing with you, did you? If there's anything else you need, you just tell me. Jang Fu's hand gave a little twitch, his voice barely a whisper. Thank you. The weight of her care was both a warm blanket and a lead weight, pulling him deeper into this whole complicated mess. The kid, bless his earnest heart, finally brought up the cash. He swore he would pay her back for every penny she was spending on him. A low, throaty chuckle slipped from Julie's lips. Don't you worry about the money, she purred, her eyes glinting with pure mischief. You should just focus on building yourself back up. He just stared, a perfect picture of confusion painting his vulnerable face, completely oblivious to the delicious second meaning she was serving up. Julie watched him, a tiny, almost invisible smile playing on her lips. God, he was cute, she thought to herself, like some fresh-faced kid who'd never seen the world, just innocently devouring his food. It was like a scene ripped from a spicy romance manhwa. He was so pure and ridiculously easy to mess with. She couldn't help but wonder how old he was. A little spike of unease mixing with her growing obsession. He couldn't be times much younger than her, could he? But that face, so damn youthful, just made her even more curious. Leaning in just a fraction, her voice dropping to a seductive murmur, she asked, I'm just curious, how old are you? My boy froze, a full-blown panic attack seizing his brain. If she finds out I'm only 17, is she gonna toss me out? What the hell do I do? Desperation shoved a number right out of his mouth. 20, he lied, a fine sheen of sweat popping on his forehead. He prayed she couldn't smell the BS. Julie let out a soft gasp, and then a knowing smile bloomed on her face. I knew it, she declared, looking amused. I had a feeling you weren't a day over 25. She let out a private little sigh. The age gap was a bit wider than she'd hoped, making her feel her own years for a hot second. Meanwhile, a wave of relief washed over our boy. The dumb lie actually worked. Julie's eyes, sharp and playful, locked with his. So, you must still be in school, then? He answered quietly. It's summer break right now. She tilted her head, a faraway look in her eyes, as if the whole idea of a summer break was from another planet. Julie's captivating stare held him hostage, her smile a beautiful, dangerous challenge as she finally dropped the bomb. But what made you suddenly decide to stay? A little while ago, you couldn't wait to get away. She put down her fork, those killer eyes still pinned on him. I guess it's your turn to tell me your story. The kid's breath caught in his throat, a single bead of sweat making a run for it down his temple. Crap, he thought. I really didn't think she'd circle back to that question. There was no way he could tell her the pathetic truth about his desperate need for a safe place. Not after he just puffed up his chest and lied about being 20. He had to deflect. Fast. He fidgeted, barely meeting her gaze. Can I tell you later? I'm still not sure how to explain it. Julie tilted her head, taking in every ounce of his squirming. Is it that hard to talk about? She went back to her food, a sly little smirk on her face, a sly little smirk playing on her lips. Whatever his sob story is, I don't really give a damn, she mused. So long as he makes my life a little less boring. And then we have our mystery man, staring out a window like the broody lead in some angsty romance manhwa. His thoughts were a silent, stubborn promise, all about crashing here temporarily, at least until she gets back. Meanwhile, Julie was all smiles, her voice laced with that easy, predatory charm. All right, hun, just let me know when you're ready. Until then, just relax and make yourself at home. Our little runaway lamb, whose brain was clearly still rebooting from the whiplash, met her gaze, a cute little blush starting to paint his cheeks, and Julie leaned in, giving him the full, playful vixen look. Big sis here is gonna take times real times good care of you. And, you know, if you're looking to finally punch your V card, I can definitely help with that too. His eyes went wide as saucers, his face flaming a brilliant shade of crimson as he instinctively slapped a hand over his mouth. "Lady, keep it down." He was practically screaming in his head, his eyes darting around. What if someone hears you? His mind was a total mess. He thought living with her was going to be an adventure, not a one-way ticket to a cardiac arrest. Julie's melodic laugh just trickled through the air. "Ha, relax. There's nobody else here. Come on." Her words were meant to be a playful invitation to drop his guard, but they only cranked his anxiety up to 11. He whipped his head away, the blush now conquering his entire neck. All the poor boy wanted was a peaceful existence, a quiet little hideout from all his drama. But he'd soon learn that living under Julie's roof, inside the swanky walls of her gorgeous home, was going to be anything but simple. His hope for a safe harbor had quickly morphed into one hell of a confusing hormonal maze. There he was, tucked up against her on the sofa, her arm casually draped over him, and he could feel that undeniable magnetic pull she had, a tangled kind of comfort that promised both a safe haven and a total shipwreck. So now, Jang Fu is standing alone, pouring a glass of water, while the highlight reel of yesterday's chaos plays in his mind. He'd only planned to grab a few essentials with Julie, but the shopping trip had snowballed, leaving him buried under a mountain of stuff he never asked for. A bitter thought bubbled up, making him wonder what really separated him from some kind of kept man living off a woman's bank account. Frustrated, he chugged the water, deciding he might as well just toss his useless pride out the window. A tiny, anxious flicker of relief cut through the noise in his head, though at least he was sleeping in the guest room, a small mercy he was surprisingly grateful for. And just as Jang Fu was lost in thought, a pair of soft arms suddenly snaked around his waist from behind, her chin hooking over his shoulder. Her voice, smooth as whiskey, slid into the silence, playfully asking, "What you spacing out about over there?" The unexpected contact sent a jolt straight through him, and he choked, sputtering water all over the place. A mix of pure amusement and fake concern danced in her eyes as she asked if he was okay, teasing that he was a naturally jumpy one. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He felt like he was going to collapse from the sheer voltage, realizing he desperately needed to build up a tolerance to her brand of surprise attack. And then, like a perfectly timed plot twist in a romance manhwa, the doorbell chimed, shattering the electric tension in the air. A super cheerful young woman appeared in the doorway, proudly holding up a cake box with a bright, "Ta-da!" Her triumphant smile instantly dissolved as her brain finally processed the scene, her eyes widening in stunned confusion at the sight of Julie wrapped around the new boy like a designer scarf. The silence that followed was so thick you could hear the refrigerator humming. The young woman, cake box completely forgotten, just stared from across the room, her mind clearly struggling to load this new, unexpected data. Sight of Julie practically shrink-wrapped around the boy. A flicker of pure annoyance flashes across her face as she finally peels herself off Jang Fu, who immediately recoils into the background like a startled kitten. With her arms crossed over her chest, Julie's voice is laced with enough ice to freeze hell over as she demands to know what her friend is doing there so damn late. Trying to keep it light, the girl chirps that she was just returning the car, and, oh yeah, she brought a little something sweet. But Julie's composure shatters. "Couldn't you have, I don't know, called first?" She snaps. Her friend, bless her meddling heart, cheekily reminds her of that open invitation to stop by any time before presenting a box with a triumphant smile. It's a fresh cream roll from that ridiculously popular shop, a sugary little peace treaty meant to cut through the thick, throbbing tension in the room. With a serene smile that doesn't reach her eyes, Julie takes the offering and casually tells her friend she can bounce now. But before she can make a clean getaway, the girl latches onto her arm, her whole vibe shifting to desperate puppy. She pleads for just one little bite before she'd make a run for it, her eyes totally fixated on the box. Her gaze then flickered past Julie, locking onto Jang Fu, standing there like the surprise villain in a twisted romance manhwa, like a deer in the headlights. "Is that your boyfriend?" she blurts out, the question detonating in the silent apartment. Jang Fu just freezes, the word boyfriend echoing in his skull like a weird foreign word. And just as the tension reaches its breaking point, Julie's phone buzzes like an angry wasp, the screen flaring to life with a call from Shun. Julie goes dead silent, her eyes wide as she stares at the name glowing on her screen. A wave of irritation washes over her sharp features. "Oh, I freaking knew it," she thinks, her inner voice dripping with cynicism. He never plays nice unless he wants a piece of something. Pulling herself together, she announces that she has to take this and steps away from the emotional minefield. In her absence, Jang Fu, bless him, takes the initiative, carefully slicing into the cream roll. The friend watches his every move, her expression practically sparkling with playful curiosity. Leaning over the counter, she drops her voice to a conspiratorial whisper, saying that she never expected Julie to be secretly dating. And wow, she really kept this one under wraps. The girl's mischievous giggle sliced right through the tension, as she added that she'd never pegged Julie as someone who was into younger, fresher models. Jang Fu's face went up in flames, He stammered, trying to explain that that it wasn't, but the words just wouldn't form. I mean, how was he supposed to even begin to define this mess? His mind was racing, trying to find a label. Friends? Roommates? This whole setup was getting more complicated than a romance manhwa plot. The horrifying realization of what their little arrangement looked like from the outside hit him like a punch to the gut. Deciding silence was the better part of valor, he clammed up just as the girl introduced herself as Xiaotian, Jule's assistant. The word assistant blindsided him, another stark reminder of how little he actually knew about her. He hesitantly asked what Jule did for a living, only for Xiaotian to stare back at him in pure, unadulterated disbelief, asking if he seriously didn't even know what her family did. Xiaotian playfully poked at Jang Fu, teasing that he and Jule must still be in that awkward, fumbling in the dark phase of dating. Seeing his total confusion, she decides to let him in on the big secret, revealing that Jule is the daughter of the absolutely massive Shenyang Group conglomerate. The information was a total system shock, painting a picture of her that was dripping in diamonds and power. This was not the woman he thought he was getting to know, intimately. Xiaotian explains that Jule ditched the family empire for a career in showbiz, but then she stops cold. A sudden light bulb goes off over her head and she points a dramatic finger at Jang Fu, declaring, You have to be the reason. She's been a total slacker. And just like that, the puzzle pieces click into place for Jang Fu. But honey, it's not the picture she's imagining. The word fiancé is ricocheting around his skull, and he finally gets why Zula was radiating Ice Queen vibes earlier. Realizing she just spilled all the tea, Xiaotian starts to short-circuit. She tries to backpedal, pointing a wobbly finger at Jang Fu and warning him not to let their little arrangement mess with her career. But her bluff is cut clean in half by Zule's arctic cold voice, basically asking what the hell she's still doing there. Instantly frazzled, Xiaotian shoves a piece of cake in her mouth and makes a ridiculously clumsy exit, mumbling some excuse for a goodbye. Jang Fu, bless his heart, calls out a simple, later, Dora, which earns him a furious shriek from down the hall. My name's Xiaotian. And then, dead silence, leaving him and Julie alone on the couch, bathed in the TV's glow, which did absolutely nothing to hide the 5-alarm fire of unspoken things between them. The silence is so thick, you could script a whole romance manhwa chapter around it. The fallout from the fiancé bomb hangs heavy in the air. Jang Fu is sitting there so stiff he could be a department store mannequin, until a soft little laugh slices through the quiet. Julie glances at him, a wicked little sparkle in her eyes, as she asks if he's always wound this tight. He sputters, totally blindsided, and she just tells him to chill out, to act like he's at home. That word home hits him in a weird way. He gets it now. Her idea of comfort is a 5-star resort compared to his own empty, echoing reality. A quick flash of his mother's retreating back and the crushing silence of his house is all the proof he needs. But right as that old, familiar loneliness starts creeping back in, a sudden wave of warmth blooms across his shoulder as Julie casually rests her head against him. Having someone this close, sharing a moment this simple. The whole thing felt like a dream he was about to wake up from. This new info is doing a number on Jang Fu's brain. As he's wrapping his head around the fact that Julie walked away from a family empire to hustle in showbiz, the gap between their two worlds felt like the Grand Canyon. He was a runaway with Jack Squat. She was basically a princess from a world he couldn't even afford a ticket to. Right next to him, Julie lets out a soft little laugh, her head still nestled on his shoulder as she murmurs about how completely unstable this whole situation is. But a nasty wave of guilt is just eating him alive. He dragged her into this mess with a lie. Does he even have the right to soak up this warmth? He shatters the cozy little moment, asking her straight up if she has any doubts, basically calling her out for trusting a guy who's a total blank slate. She just calmly explains it's got nothing to do with trust. She figures he's got his reasons for being a man of mystery. It's way simpler than that, she says, a tiny smile playing on her lips. He just gives off zero-threat level vibes, like a harmless, stray puppy. Julie just waves away the whole idea of him being a freeloader, reminding him with a sly little smile that they cut a deal. Her voice then drops to this silky, dangerous whisper, as she promises that as long as he keeps her satisfied, she'll give him anything his little heart desires. Jang Fu's face goes supernova red, completely short-circuited by her sheer intensity. Before he can even begin to unpack that loaded statement, she slides closer on the couch, her whole vibe shifting to dead serious. She admits she does have a few doubts about him. And then bam, she launches a full-blown personal investigation. First question, got a girlfriend? After he stammers out a no, her hand creeps a little closer, right there on the cushion between them, as she keeps digging, asking if he's ever even dated anyone. Or, hell, even times someone. My boy is completely adrift, his brain working overtime trying to figure out what the hell kind of doubts these are supposed to be. Julie leans in, her face a perfect storm of playful curiosity and genuine interrogation, and drops a question that sends an electric shock right through Jang Fu. What about getting your cherry popped? Before my boy can even process the question, she leans in even closer, her voice a silky murmur as she asks if he's ever, asterisk had one asterisk. And just like that, Jang Fong goes into total system failure. A blush explodes across his face as he stammers something about not being sure, while his heart tries to hammer its way out of his chest. It's this chaotic flutter he can't even name. But through the fog of his pure, unadulterated panic, one desperate thought slices through the noise. If shamelessly begging to please her means this fragile, electric thing between them can last just a little bit longer, then he's all in. He meets her eyes and quietly asks, "Will you teach me?" And oh, Zui's lips just curl into this slow, wicked smile. It's a smile that knows everything. She leans in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, proposing a little private lesson. The first topic on the syllabus? A tender moment, and whether he's ever experienced one. Jang Fu's mind hits the emergency brake, and a fresh wave of red creeps across his cheeks. Her question just hangs there in the air, and his absolute, deafening silence is all the confirmation she needs. A soft little laugh escapes her. She's totally playing with him now, finding his wide-eyed, deer-in-the-headlights vibe genuinely adorable as she needles him, asking if he's times never done it. But then, something inside him just hardens. He shoves the mortification down, locks eyes with her, and his whole expression shifts. It's this insane cocktail of raw desperation and a sudden shot of courage. Ignoring her teasing, he asks again, his voice low but steady. "So, will you teach me?" And damn, the whole vibe in the room just zaps with electricity. Zui's playful mask actually slips for a second. Her eyes go wide with genuine surprise at his sincerity, but the moment shatters as quickly as it formed. Overwhelmed by his own ballsy move, Jang Fong flinches back, hiding his face while stammering that he was just talking trash. A wave of secondhand embarrassment so hot it could boil water washes over him. The shame is real. Jang Fu's own impulsive words are echoing in his skull, and he's seriously questioning if he's completely lost his mind. He's about to spontaneously combust from the cringe. But just as he's about to completely unravel, Zui's calm voice slices right through his panic. With this soft, mysterious smile, she just agrees, promises to teach him, step by step. Before his brain can even begin to reboot, she's leaning in again, her breath a warm promise against his skin as she whispers for him not to be nervous. And then her lips gently press against his, a soft, deliberate touch that sends a jolt through his entire system. This is the part in the romance manhwa where the world just stops turning. She pulls back just an inch, murmuring, "If you want to keep going, then close your eyes." Jang Fu's mind? It's gone. Dial tone. The thought cuts through the haze in Jang Fu's mind like a lightning strike. His body isn't his own anymore. He has completely and utterly lost control. His entire world has shrunk to the impossible softness of her lips. And then Zui decides to deepen the lesson. A faint hum of approval escapes her, confirming that nope, this is not a dream. Meanwhile, his hand is clenched into a white-knuckled fist against the cushion. It's a dead giveaway to the absolute hurricane of chaos inside him. She notices, of course, and her own hand drifts down, gently covering his. Her fingers slowly pry his open, lacing with his in a move that's both incredibly calming and a complete sensory overload. His entire world has shrunk to the impossible softness of her lips. And then Zui decides to deepen the lesson. She whispers his name, then calmly instructs him to open his mouth just a little more. Before the poor boy can even process the command, it's a dead giveaway to the absolute hurricane of chaos inside him. She notices, of course, and her own hand drifts down, gently covering his. It's intense and all-consuming, her hand sliding from his cheek to the nape of his neck, pulling him deeper into the storm. A single, frantic thought breaks through. It's the only thing anchoring him to reality. With Jang Fu basically trapped beneath her, Zui's voice is a soft, commanding purr, just melting into her. The whole world outside this little bubble just ceasing to exist. The sheer voltage of the moment fries his circuits, and Jang Fanu's hand clenches on its own, white-knuckling the fabric of her shirt as she dives in for another round. Their lips are just a whisper away when a 5-alarm fire goes off in his brain. He shoves himself back, practically launching himself off the couch and creating a sudden Grand Canyon between them. His heart is trying to hammer its way out of his ribcage, his mind screaming that this is a Category 5 disaster, that he's about to completely lose the plot if this goes on for one more second. Looking down at a barely phased Julie, he starts babbling about the lesson being over, desperately insisting he's totally, 100% got the hang of it now. A complete hot mess. Our boy Jang Fanu tries to retract every bold word he just said. He's stammering some nonsense about maybe next time, his face the color of a stop sign, before he abruptly announces he's just gonna go to his room. He makes a graceless exit, leaving Julie on the couch, just watching him go. And as he disappears, a wicked little smirk plays on her lips, telling you everything you need to know. The second that door clicks shut, my man absolutely falls apart. He just slides to the floor, clutching his head, his brain just screaming on a loop that he's officially lost his mind, wondering if he accidentally took the wrong meds to trigger this kind of full-system meltdown. Lying in bed, Jang Fu is just marinating in a stew of pure, uncut cringe. His face is burning as he replays his own pathetic begging on a loop, clutching his head, his brain just screaming on a loop that he's officially lost his mind. The memory of that near miss, of how close his engine came to redlining completely, is just too much. And then, the sun has the audacity to rise on a new day. The memory of that near miss, of how close his engine came to redlining completely, is just too much. And then, the sun has the audacity to rise on a new day. Julie is standing right there, looking like a goddess and totally unfazed. She just smiles and asks why he's up so bright and early. He flinches, before he abruptly announces he's just gonna go to his room. He makes a graceless exit. The poor guy was wrestling his demons in his bedsheets all night long and didn't get a single wink of sleep. Julie lets out this soft, musical laugh, her eyes sparkling with a light that says, "I know everything." She calls him a disciplined young man. And the sarcasm is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Jang Fu just stares at the floor, unable to look at her as his mind flashes a high-def replay of her lips, her sweet praise echoing in his head. Her voice cuts through his personal hell again, casually pointing out how red his face is. Jang Fu's brain is just yelling, "Get it together, man," but it's a lost cause. As she steps right into his personal space and asks if he's feeling hot, he practically recoils, completely short-circuiting from her proximity. He starts yanking at his collar, stammering that it is, in fact, a little toasty. With a smirk that could melt steel, Julie purrs that young people are always running so hot. As she lowers the thermostat with a casual click of the remote, Jang Fu's face goes from red to full-on volcanic, fried by her nearness and her expert-level teasing. Seeing her grab her purse, a new wave of panic hits him as he squeaks out, asking if she's leaving. She confirms it's just a quick run to the office but promises she'll be right back. Then, she pauses. After a quick tap of their phones to swap numbers, she informs him she's already programmed his fingerprint into the front door lock. Looking him dead in the eye, she adds that he should call her if he needs anything. Or even if he just wants to, doesn't. Jang Fu's brain just completely short-circuits, and all he can manage is a choked-out okay. The click of the door sentences him to solitary confinement with his spiraling thoughts, grappling with the absolute bombshell of trust she just dropped on him, and the dangerously mixed signals that came with it. And there's Julie, looking like a goddamn snack, pausing at the door. She throws this look over her shoulder, a smile so effortlessly wicked it could start a fire. Then she just casually suggests they should, catch a movie when she gets back. That little line is all it takes to send Jang Fu's mind into a total tailspin, a blush burning up his neck as he stammers out a yes. The second that door is shut, he's left alone in the screaming silence, and the whole cool guy act he was barely holding together just shatters. He lets out this huge, shaky sigh of relief, clutching his head like he's trying to keep it from flying off. He's already overthinking it, wondering if he even managed to seem human. But what's really messing with him is her Ice Queen composure. It's like she's the main character in some steamy romance manhwa, and that intense moment they shared yesterday was just another Tuesday for her. Then, bam, a flashback of her lips on his hits him, and he's burying his burning face in his hands, completely mortified. So while my boy is having a full-blown meltdown over the sheer awkwardness, Julie is pulling up to the imposing Edshine Entertainment Building. A whole other world he knows jack squat about. The office door glides open, revealing a woman with the most striking lavender hair, named Xienne, who steps inside with an aura of pure, untouchable elegance. A guy at the conference table, who looks like he hasn't slept in 3 days, glances up, a flicker of surprise in his tired eyes, but his expression instantly melts into a warm, welcoming smile as he raises a hand to her. He calls out her name, genuinely stoked that she's here. With a calm, respectful nod, Xienne acknowledges him as Brother Shun. Just then, a voice as sweet as sugar-coated venom cuts in. A drop-dead, gorgeous blonde woman at the table turns, a radiant smile plastered on her face as she greets Xienne. But her tone? It's deceptively simple. "Oh yeah, you can just feel the drama brewing.